You'll see I'm not alone in the studio today. I got one of my favorites in the house, Langston Moore. He's with Society of St. Andrew, and it's ramping up the season of getting out and gleaning, or as I like to say, rescuing vegetables in Mississippi for good cause. Welcome back, Langston.
Thank you, Rebecca. It's always good to be with you.
I always knew I could always text you in the middle of summer and give you an opportunity to come sit in the
of course,
come sit in the AC instead of being out in the heat, which I know you guys do great work in the heat. So let's get to that. When people say, and we can't assume that someone listening understands the good work that Society of St. Andrew does. So how do you kind of explain the mission?
Well, I think the first thing that people need to know is we're not affiliated with the cathedral, nor are we affiliated with the schools.
You get that a lot, I'm sure.
Yes. We are. We were started in Virginia in 1979. I'd say, long story short, we have expanded to 10 regions across the United States, including Mississippi. And I tell people this, it's kind of funny to me because I tell people we're the furthest west region that we have. Well, we're not west, but we are the furthest west.
Yeah.
So we are the nation's oldest and largest gleaning organization, which you refer to as rescuing. Gleaning is an Old Testament term. It basically says for the farmers to get their harvest and leave the rest for the orphans and the widows. And so that concept was thought about in Virginia by 3 Methodist families. And they actually went for funding, they got funded, and we expanded, like I said. So we use hundreds of volunteers every year. We have relationships with farmers, about 120, that are generous enough to give us food at no cost. Because, as you know, farmers want people to eat their food.
Yes.
And if it's going to waste, if they can't get it to market, and there's other things too, as you know, like food can be unmarketable. You know,
they have those cute.
Right. They have those companies that make millions of dollars selling ugly fruit.
Ugly fruit is the name of it, yeah.
So it can have blemishes. It can be too ripe, not ripe enough. It could be the wrong shape, the wrong size.
But it's still perfectly edible, nutritious food, yeah.
And like one time I got 60,000 pounds of zucchini.
It's a lot of zucchini.
Because, you know, the little bitty bottles of water that you get, the bottled water. Mm-hmm. So think that's a regular zucchini. These were like the big bottles of water. They were just too big, and nobody would buy them. But we went and got that food, and we had it distributed, believe it or not, in about 3 hours once it got to its location.
That's the other piece of y'all's magic.
Yeah, and, you know, it's called a crop drop when we do that. We do sweet potatoes as our bread and butter, if you will. We are the sweet potato capital of the world, and Vardaman, just north of here, is the sweet potato capital itself. And we do a lot of sweet potatoes every year, and I think I've told this story before to you. We are very lucky in Mississippi because, you know, people say, even in Virginia when they've had our sweet potatoes, they say, we have the best sweet potatoes. And we do.
I had one for lunch.
Oh, good. So in Mississippi, we get this year's sweet potatoes. But the other states further from here, they get the warehouse potatoes that are last year's potatoes. So they do lose some of that flavor. Not nutritional value necessarily, but flavor definitely.
It's not like mine.
No. No. So we're very lucky to be in that situation in Mississippi. But I say we use hundreds of volunteers. On August 19th, we will actually be at Jackson State, which is one of our biggest drops, not in quantity, but in the people that show up. Because the students get community service hours by helping us. So we bag up 10,000 pounds of sweet potatoes. It's my understanding, the last time we did it, unfortunately, the line to get the potatoes was backed up to Ellis Avenue, which is roughly about 3 miles is what I was told. I'm not sure. So it's a sad situation, but we're blessed to do the work we do. And we do those 10,000 pounds of potatoes.
So the students at JSU bags the potatoes for you?
They bag the potatoes. They have a DJ. They're dancing. You know, it's just a really large time and a lot of fun. And the work we do, we don't normally get to see our end user, is how I put it, because we partner with feeding agencies. We tell people to come get a pallet of food, take it back to Hattiesburg or Laurel or up north, wherever they want, so we can touch as many communities as we want to.
And you don't have anywhere to store it, so
right.
That's part of the thing. When you go out and glean it, you got to turn this.
It's turned around.
So when it's almost like a call, when you get a call that you have a farmer who has produce available for gleaning, then everything kind of starts going quickly for volunteer for
Quickly, that's one way to put it.
because it's not necessary. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Langston, but you don't. I mean, you have a little bit of notice. Like if you got a call today, you may have a couple of days, maybe a week's notice, but it's not
a week is a
it's
lifetime.
So it's not like you could say, "Hey, you're." In March, you can't say, "Hey, you've got July's weekend, you've got whatever," because you don't know. Because the
Right.
farmer also doesn't know. Their hope and prayer is that they can sell as much as humanly possible.
Right.
So you are getting, what couldn't be done, and it's their final, okay, here you can have
Right.
it, and they don't know when that's done until that's done.
No, and it's like I was telling you earlier. They don't know what the weather is going to do. We lost most of our blueberries. I would guess 80-85% of our blueberries in Mississippi were ruined this year because of that late frost. So they depend on that too, just like we do. And like I said, a week is a lifetime. It's usually 24 hours. And the great thing about our organization, we're so very efficient because of our volunteers. And we like to say we go from farm to fork in less than 8 hours, and it's usually 4. So we're very efficient. Our volunteers love what they do. They love helping with food insecurity. They know people are hungry. They see it in their own neighborhoods. I mean, 1 out of 5 adults are hungry. You and I know people who are hungry. Mm-hmm. It's just, it's an epidemic. It's almost a pandemic. I mean,
And oftentimes, even if they take the opportunity to visit their local food banks and get those, oftentimes what's missed are those fresh fruits and vegetables that you would have bought had you had the means to do at the store, or that you just need more of in your diet, regardless.
That's right. And the other aspect, the unseen of our work, is we help food pantries with their budget. They don't have to buy that food. There's always a stipend involved with some food, but we charge nothing for our food. There's no qualifications to get our food. We don't ask questions. If you come to a sweet potato drop and you ask for 2, 3, 5 bags, 10 bags, we're going to give it to you, because our philosophy is we're hyper local, because we don't know who's hungry. And just across the way in Vicksburg, we have no clue because I'm not there. Mm-hmm. But a feeding agency in Vicksburg knows their clients. They know the neighborhoods that need the food. And that's how we can reach so many people. And it's just, I like to tell people, if you think about throwing a pebble into water and it ripples, right? Society of St. Andrew is that pebble. So we throw the pebble and our network trickles out and goes across the entire state of Mississippi.
Which I think is really cool. I know you always have the numbers. I know this year you're ramping up your harvest season or your gleaning season, which we'll definitely get into. But last year's numbers, how many vegetables did y'all rescue?
A little bit less than 1.5 million. And
not individual vegetables, pounds.
Yeah,
Let me clarify that.
Hold on one second.
Like, which volunteer counted all the berries?
It went straight over my head anyway. It doesn't
pounds,
matter.
Yeah.
About 1.5 million, which is roughly 30 million servings of food divided by 5, which is meals.
Yes.
60
Sure.
thousand.
Rhino's going back there. He's like, hold on, guys. Let me calculate this for you. You obviously did not pass math class. No, that's too many commas.
I had to take one math in college. I had to take it 3 times.
I know there's a 6 involved. What is it, Rhino? Oh, he says he doesn't know. I wasn't even
600,000?
Something like that.
Okay, let's go with that.
It doesn't matter. It's a lot.
It's a lot of food.
Yeah.
And I think we're tracking at about 400,000 right now. Mm-hmm. And some people may say, well, you're never going to get there. I mean, it's July, right? But it's not sweet potato season yet. So once that starts, we're going to just start moving. And we'll move sweet potatoes almost weekly.
What else have y'all been moving mostly this up until now?
We've had corn, peas, green beans, squash, zucchini, tomatoes, everything you think about that you get at the farmer's market, we have access to. And we don't care what little amount you have.
I was just going to ask, what about small farmers?
Yep. Backyard gardens, we'll take it, because just like a gardener, like my dad, he grew way too much food.
Usually it's too many tomatoes. I don't know why we feel like we need 5 buckets of tomatoes for a family of 4.
I know.
You don't need a bucket of tomatoes for every human.
You're exactly right. But the philosophy my dad had, and then I feel like a lot of farmers have, is they want to give the food away. They want to feed their neighbors. They just have the heart. They want people to experience what they grew, and it's just that's how they get back.
And I know you want people to experience the opportunity of gleaning, so we've got some opportunities for that and more for her. And we're continuing our conversation with Langston of Society St. Andrew, who said, I wonder how hot it is at the fair. It's probably no hotter at the fair than it is out in the fields gleaning the vegetables, but it does usually heat up. It feels like that the Lord has given us a heat wave for all the talks that are coming towards the end of the week. So
it makes the air hotter.
As if it needs any help. Okay, let's go back to helping you. So Society of St. Andrew, y'all are statewide here in Mississippi gleaning all kinds of vegetables and produce. You mentioned your mass of volunteers. I know someone listening thinks, man, that would be an interesting way to get in volunteer hours because listen up. I mean, people who have, especially I think it's juniors and seniors. I know seniors for sure that are going into their senior year. You've got to rack up so many volunteer hours, as well as a lot of other civic type organizations require volunteer hours for students. Does this count? Like, are they able to count this? Do y'all work with that to sort of help them knock those out?
We sure do, and thanks for mentioning that. I would like to say and add to that, we don't have an age limit, a minimum or, of course, a maximum on who can volunteer. We feel like if a parent believes their child can do the work, we're fine with it. And if I had to be totally honest, they make some of the best volunteers that we have. They get excited. They lift more than they weigh for the most part. And the joy and excitement on their face is just remarkable. And it's a blessing for me to see it. And it's real easy to sign up to volunteer. You can go to endhunger.org/volunteer, and you will see it says become a volunteer, I believe, and it's a real easy form to fill out. Now, understand, if you're filling that out, we're not going to be calling you and bugging you. We simply you will start getting emails when our coordinator, Letitia M. Skinner, puts an event in our event folder. You'll get an email to tell you where we're going to be. Hopefully you'll get it in time, but as we alluded to earlier, a lot of times we have a 24-hour turnaround. Jackson State, one reason it's so good is she knows that she's going to have her drop on the Student Service Day, which is August 19th this year. So we have access to sweet potatoes all year long if we want them. So we can go ahead and schedule the potatoes to be delivered. We can do everything. So that's one reason it goes so smoothly.
But the other things, like I know you had an email that came out the other day, or you had texted me and said you were looking for, was it pea pickers?
Yes, yes.
On a Friday morning?
Yes.
Desperately needed people to come pick peas. So that is something where if you sign up, but you get the right to refusal. Nobody's dragging you out there, but know that you may not have much warning.
Right. And, one thing I want to say about the fair that's different than the field is the fair has trees. And for the most part, we don't have any shade in the field. Mm-hmm. So it's tough to find resting points, but we always invite people to go sit in their car. And we always have plenty of hydration available. It's a good fellowship time. And, I picked peas. I remember I shelled peas all the time growing up, but I don't remember picking them because I was so sore Saturday morning after doing that. But our mutual dear friend, Lydia West, came to the rescue and helped us pick peas along with two other individuals. So it was a good time.
I can remember my granny had to be the best pea picker ever. I mean, she didn't have the biggest hands, but however she could hold that many peas, you go down the line and you hold them all in one hand. So then you put the full handful in your bucket and doing whatever. And then they would come and sit them down, and you sit outside and you have the big silver bowls, and you would sit there and just snap, 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 until your little heart was just snapped completely, completely out. And that's how you spend a lot of your summer days. But it all goes back to, if you enjoyed that, or so a good way to give back, to sort of, I guess, reminisce in that if you don't have your gardens anymore, and still it's good exercise too.
Oh, it's great exercise.
Good sort of fellowship as well. And the year I got the opportunity to go at Blueberry Farm, myself and now the news director, JT, went with me in, is it not Mize? Maybe Mize, Heidelberg. Mm-hmm. And it was baseball teams. It was a sporting team, youth sporting team. I think that were out there doing it as a team building exercise. They were gleaning blueberries and having the friendly competition of who could fill up their 5-gallon bucket quickest, and also have that, layer of service built into their team camaraderie. I thought that was really nice.
Yeah, we welcome corporations to come out too, and youth groups are really good. And also, I'd like to talk about a volunteer opportunity that's not that stressful and not much physical activity involved.
Oh, come on.
So the Presbyterian women at Briarwood Presbyterian, where my office is housed, about once every other month, they cut bags for us. Now, I'll tell you what that means. We order bulk mesh, and it comes on about a 125-pound roll, and it's not cut. It's just one thing of mesh, but the mesh is, I don't know what you call it. You can make a sack out of it, okay?
Yeah, if you go and buy like a 10-pound bag of tomatoes.
That. Or onions.
Or onions or lemons. Talk about GMOs.
Yeah, that's the bag.
That's the bag, yes.
And so we figured out that if you cut it to 32 inches, you can get about 10 pounds of sweet potatoes. And you just tie one end. It's very efficient. It's quick. It's easy. It's a good fellowship opportunity. And if you think about it, Rebecca, if we don't have red bags, we don't do our job. Mm-hmm. Because we can't ask people to bring stuff. We have to make sure it's the right thing. We can't use garbage bags anymore like we used to. We've probably been poisoned all our lives. Who knows? I do have a funny story about that.
About poisoning yourself?
Well, not poisoning myself, but when I was volunteering for the Society of St. Andrew, we were out in a turnip field, and Andy Lemon at the time was the coordinator, and he brought the boxes for us to put the turnips in. And I didn't notice that. I had no clue until somebody took a picture with me. And I put this picture in a presentation where I'm holding a box with turnip greens in it. Well, the box happened to be a black flag killer, the spray killer, bug spray. I couldn't find the word. That's what it was. I'm like, oh my gosh. So we don't do that anymore.
That's like you're, donating your liquor boxes to the church for moving boxes.
That's it. But,
it gets the job done, and it was,
Also, I would like to put out a cry, I guess, for if anybody does not know what to do with 5-gallon buckets they may have laying around, bring them to me. We use those like crazy, and they're a big help because we don't pick and then bag them in the field. That's just not efficient. So any kind of containers you're not using at home that you want to find a home for, you can email me at mississippi@endhunger.org, and I'll be happy to make arrangements to come pick it up.
Because those are things that can be used over and over and over again. But the bags, you guys need those every year, all the time. And even as we move into winter, fall, we're going to get there, guys. We're going to get to the fall. We're going to get to the winter. Those months are coming. And then you are looking for still service opportunities. This is an easy way to do that, like within your own kind of thing. We made a really fun competition out of the bag tying. And it's really cool to set up different teams.
Yep.
And then see who can tie the most bags in an hour.
Right.
And it all goes back to a good cause, but then you kind of have the bragging rights, and then you get to do it the next year, and then sort of the next year, and see who can carry on the winning score. It's a school, it may be St. Andrews around here. Someone used to have the top score of number of bags that were cut and tied within an hour.
I've never even heard that.
Really?
No,
I'll have to go back and do my due diligence and figure it out. It's a classroom of, I think, 8th or 9th graders whooped our tail.
Okay.
And we made it. We made close to 1,000 in an hour. It was 2 teams, but...
Well, you know what? I'd like to give a shout out to Crossgates United Methodist. I actually went over there about 2 or 3 weeks ago. They had bags ready for us. And they told me it was about 6,000 bags.
Okay, so they beat us.
So, yeah.
So
it wasn't in an hour.
That's setting the bar kind of high.
Yeah, it wasn't in an hour. It's over weeks probably. So,
But you will come and drop off the spool, and then they will.
I will. Spool, scissors. I'll bring water if you want me to.
Anything that you need. All right, I need
Besides
you
money.
to stick with us. We got some more good things for you coming up next. Got our guest Langston Moore with Society of St. Andrews still with us. When I say baseball, does that make your heart go pitter patter just a little bit, Langston?
Yep,
Because you spent how many hours on a baseball field with your son?
I don't know. I can't even guesstimate that.
And now you tell parents to hold on to it tightly because it does go by fast.
It was quick. It was really, really quick. His senior year, 2-3 years ago, it was just a blip.
When he first started baseball versus now, how has the all-star sort of scene in Mississippi grown? Because I know now you've got the complex, obviously, in Hattiesburg. You've got the great complex there in Oxford. I know there's one in Tupelo. There's several on the Gulf Coast. It just feels like
Senatobia. There's a multi-use one over in Vicksburg where you can play softball, baseball, and soccer. It's beautiful, and it's all there. Everybody's going to artificial turf, which is fine with me. I love it. It's hot. It's hot as all get out. But I think baseball will always be here. I think it had a dip, and I think with the generation between me and my son, the generation right before my son, I think that's when it really started picking up again. And now, you have so many former players that are coming back after if they went to the show or they went to the minor leagues or whatever, they're coming back and they're giving back through coaching, through opening practice facilities. And if you think it's not $1 billion industry, you're wrong.
I guess I never thought about that playing a part into the popularity of it, because you do have those that maybe their career at a higher level has ended, but yet they're coming back and starting the opportunity, and also having the opportunity there to create businesses or coaching opportunities where they're now developing younger athletes better. They would probably have been better had they had.
Oh, sure.
That kind of instruction at 8, 9, 10, 11.
And people in my age group, there was nothing like that. It was dad. And
some people wish it could go back a little bit like that, though.
Oh, sure. And I was able to be very active with my son, and I was able to coach him for about 4 years, and it was just a joy to see him love the game like I did, and. But as soon as his senior game was over, he hung him up. Like, he was done. And I was, I didn't push him. I was like, good for you.
Well, I think that's encouraging, because some parents, I know there's a lot of time, energy, and resources that goes into youth and then high school ball, and balls of all kinds, soccer ball, baseball, volleyball, now it's big, softball, all the balls. And swimming, can throw, dance, all those, the cheer, those in there too. And it's like the pool of that who actually makes it to the next level is so small, right? Then the pool from that to the next. But if your kid just has a wonderful time developing great skills, physical activity, learning the other good things that come from being in a team sports, the ups and sort of the downs, there needs to be the celebration too of like, this season, this story ended. You did not fail, or there's not that expectation that you have to go into that next level or so that next chapter, because I think a lot of kids they have so much pressure on them during their high school years to make or not make the next.
Right.
It takes away the joy and the excitement that they could actually have on just being part of the varsity whatever.
Yeah. Well, and I grew up in rec ball, because really this organized stuff was not really around.
Tell us you're old without telling us you're old, Langston.
That's it. I know. But I chose my son to grow up in rec ball, and we did that until he was 13, and he grew and loved the game. And we did a little bit of, we played select ball, but we played in the metro. Like, I didn't have the resources to travel, nor did I want to. So it's a big industry, and I love it, and I applaud the dads who are involved, because they're needed now. And looking at baseball in Mississippi, with 2 out of the last 3 College World Series being won by Mississippi teams, I think it sparked an even bigger interest in this state for baseball, and I love it. But it's hot. It's really hot, and it's hard to stay cool out there, and you get irritable. And one time, my wife, who didn't grow up in baseball, of course, and she had brothers, but they didn't play. She told me at a tournament one time, we were getting rained out, and it was rained out, and it was rained out, and postponed, and this and that. And we were out there at 9:30 at night, and been out there all day. And she said, "Okay, you ready to go?" I'm like, "We're playing like right after this game, like probably at 11 o'clock. She said, "Are you kidding me?" I'm like, "No, I'm not." She said, she looked at me without blinking her eyes. She said, "This is the absolute worst day of my life."
And there's probably a lot of families listening that definitely resonates with. But then if they win, it was worth it, right?
Yeah, and I don't think we won that game.
It's just sort of all part of it. And you look back on it, you definitely had a lot of memories. I think it's cool that it's also being used as, this economic driver for smaller communities that are investing in these facilities to house and host these things. I mean, it's become like a travel, not only, it's like a tourism. It's like, so
Oh, yeah.
I don't have that yet, but we used to, as a group of runners, we would make destinations out of things to go and do, like races to go and run. And I know like the Mississippi Blues Marathon is a destination for so many that brings a lot of outsiders in to do some, to run that, as well as the Mississippi Gulf Coast now has a growing marathon and half marathon that they also utilize. So these physical things have an opportunity to really add into tourism dollars for towns and communities. So, why not do it for the youth?
Well, I'm not running, and I mean, I'm not a runner, but if you see me run, you know that story.
Yes.
But I have a neat story. I was flying back from Atlanta like the Thursday before the marathon one year, and I was on the last flight, I believe, probably, and there were so many languages being spoken on that plane.
Oh, I thought you meant, I'm like, yes, running will make you do that?
No. But yeah, so it was real neat to see. They were all coming for the marathon, and it was really cool to see the impact that my state was having, and I can say it worldwide. I mean, seriously. So it was really cool.
Which I think is neat too, to watch the interest in our state. I know you've made a career out of working different jobs, Langston, that sort of promotes all the good that Mississippi has to offer. You could have moved and lived anywhere. Why do you stay?
Wow.
Specifically too in the capital city. Yeah,
I love Mississippi. I love our people, and I think that's the number one answer. It's home. It fits me. It fits me. I can't do too well in traffic, and I live
low expectations.
I live in Jackson. I know. I live in Jackson. I love Jackson. As a white male, I get laughed at a lot for living in Jackson. But I believe in Jackson. I believe Jackson's not going away. I believe it is my duty to support my capital city. And it's a convenience thing too. I mean, we have like a 4-mile radius that we travel in and get everything we need. And I love Mississippi, period. My wife and I, when we don't go off on vacation, we go on day trips throughout the state to see our state. And
favorite place y'all have gone?
Oh, Rolling Fork was great. Rolling Fork was special. It really was. And there's a man there, and you probably need to get him on. I'll get your contact. He owns an art shop. He's a welder by trade. And he takes, for lack of a better term, the teeth from a cotton picker, and he makes art out of it. And he has everything you can think of, Rebecca. Microphones, headphones, tractors. We have a dragonfly, a crawfish, anything and everything he has. I believe his name is Mr. Lee. And I would love for you to have him on. And his shop survived, from what I understand. His shop didn't survive, but the store did.
The store did.
Yeah.
All righty, Langston. It's always a pleasure having you in and catching up. We won't make it so long next time, but if people want to get in touch with you, how do they do that?
Mississippi at endhunger.org is the easiest way to get me. Thanks for your graciousness not spitting water on me when I made you laugh.
Y'all stick with us. We got more for you next.